Welcome to Multifamily Grit, where we bring in the experts to share their stories of the celebrations and struggles of one of the most important industries in the U.S., multifamily property management. Kerri sat down with Alex LaFlam, National Account Executive at WithMe, where she's helping redefine what it means to be a true partner in the multifamily space. With over 15 years of industry experience, Alex brings a rare operator-first perspective to the world of proptech. Her journey began in the fast-paced world of lease-ups, where adaptability, problem-solving, and relentless energy were non-negotiable. From running around San Francisco in heels, executing leases as a busy on-site manager, to now shaping national strategy on the vendor side, Alex has always stayed grounded in one thing: a deep passion for improving both the resident and site team experience. Alex's story is a blend of hustle and heart. She met her husband in multifamily, raised a family while managing high-demand communities, and has consistently focused on solving the real-world pain points site teams face. Whether that's printing headaches, obsolete tech, or budget-busting amenity maintenance. At WithMe, she's building out what true partnership should look like: flat fee pricing, hard ROI metrics, and tools that actually work for the people using them. Today, we dive into how Alex is helping operators rethink smart spending, what it takes to future-proof amenities in a remote work era, and how she's translating her on-site experience into scalable value for owners and residents alike. We'll also explore why she believes transparency, reliability, and efficiency are the new currencies of trust in multifamily, and why she's so determined to help teams recoup rent, boost NPS, and stop wasting time on things that don't work. This is a conversation for anyone who's ever sprinted off-site for printer ink. Before we get started, this episode is sponsored by Fortress, the only core property management operating system built with an emphasis for affordable owners and operators. Fortress revolutionizes affordable management with features focused on automating housing assistance charges and payments to keep ledgers clean and accurate. Centralizing file reviews and document storage through Fortress and AWS, and a free in-system smart waitlist to ensure your property stays in compliance. And don't forget, if you like what you hear today, please like, subscribe, and share with someone you think would enjoy this episode. Now let's get into it. Here's Kerri Davis sitting down with Alex LaFlam for a conversation packed with energy, honesty, and practical insights from the front lines of multifamily.
Alex, thank you so much again for being here today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Kerri. I'm so excited to be here with you.
And before we dig in, I'd love for you to take a minute to just share with our listeners how you got your start in the industry.
Yeah, absolutely. Just kind of like I think the majority of us in multifamily, we kind of all fell into it. About 20 years ago, I basically had been working as like a dental assistant in restaurant jobs. One of my best friends from high school basically said, like, I think you would be so good at leasing. She was an assistant manager. She is now head of asset management for a company. So it's just wild how we all got into it. But I basically started leasing in a community close to Sac State when I was 22 and fell in love with the industry. I really loved helping people find apartments. It was back in the day where we still did those little guest cards that everybody wrote on, which it's changed tremendously since then. But it was such a great experience getting into it. And then I just fell in love with it and kind of found my way and ended up being on site for 15 plus years, doing multiple different things. But like a lot of other people, we started out as a leaser, or some people have started out porters and kind of worked my way up from there.
Yeah, I love that. I hear this story so many times where people kind of fell into the industry during college or honestly, even some in high school. I feel like, when I was in college and I was eventually lived in an apartment community, it's like there's like this whole world that goes on behind apartments that in a lot of instances you barely even recognize. Like you hardly think about it as an industry, but yet it's so important.
It is. People's homes are like so personal. So it's like the stuff that you deal with on site. I would say, not only just being an operator, but sometimes you're your residence therapist, you're helping everybody through life-changing things. Moving can be one of the most stressful things that, your residents go through. So
Hmm.
for us, it's creating this community, and making sure that it's a home to them. I remember
Yeah.
that first job, like I didn't even know what the industry was about, but I laughed because I was not given basically leasing commissions till we hit 95%, which is not normal,
Oh,
but I
wow.
didn't know that. So, but I was just so eager to get to 95%. And like I had no idea that it was normal to get paid per lease. And so it was a small little owner. And once we hit 95, we got there, we were so excited. And I also fell into being the events coordinator when I was on my first on-site job. So I loved doing like the movie night, the pool parties, and all of that. So I really started hitting some strides on taking on additional, um, just like additional responsibilities and trying to work my way up. I just again fell so in love. And then I also got the perk of living on site, which was so fun. I would say it was like Melrose Place for us back then because my best friend lived too. And so we just had such a great time, and it was such a great learning opportunity. I'm so thankful that she pulled me into it.
Yeah, I love that. And speaking of your best friend, I mentioned this in the intro, but you also met your husband in the industry.
Oh, yeah, that was funny story. So I would say, once I kind of worked my way up through the industry, I did, the sites that weren't so desirable is how I started off. And then I went to renovation sites, like worked at high-end communities, really found a love for like my strides of doing lease ups and wanting to work in like a city like downtown San Francisco. I wanted to move to New York, but I decided not to. And so I was like, I want to do high rises, open new buildings. Plus, sales came very natural, which is why my friend got me in there. So becoming a lease up manager and opening new buildings was my favorite thing because it was
Wow.
fast paced, working so many hours. I was that one in heels pregnant down the road. I remember I got out of like a long-term relationship and just kind of was like immersed myself into my job. I would work till like 8 p.m. at night. I just had taken on a new job with a company that I loved with a huge equity residential
Oh,
to
yeah.
do all of their lease ups in San Francisco. It came at a
Mhm.
really fun time. My first lease up, it was no competition. Then when I came over to them, it was the development boom through San Francisco. So lots of competitive stuff, but I was still learning a new company and I changed over from fee management to the operator side. So
Okay.
it was kind of a shift for me, but I remember those first few weeks, um, just kind of still going through it, single life and working. And just, I remember saying like to my friends, they were like, you got to do the dating apps or you can meet somebody at work. And I said, oh my God, I would never date anybody in this industry. There's no way. And I remember we were in our little trailer in Mission Bay in San Francisco, and it was like 2 p.m. When you're in a lease up, you just don't stop. And I
Yeah.
was like, I haven't even had lunch. I haven't even had a break. I would have 2 coffees a day. So I was like, I'm going to go run to Starbucks just to get myself a tiny little tray to eat and like an iced tea real quick. Well, my regional at that time didn't tell me that I had training scheduled around that time. So I get a call like literally 2 minutes out of leaving the office. And he was like, Wade's here from Equity Residential to meet with you. And I was like, Okay, like I just need a break because we've been go, go, go. We would just be trying to lease up the building as fast as possible.
Yeah.
So
And you just needed a little mental space. Like,
I believe I talked to my mom and was like, okay, I'll just grab something really quick and come right back. So, new job. So I was just like, let me get back. Kind of was like just flustered because I needed, some time. But of course, I walked in and I was like, there's this really cute boy in there. And I was like, oh. And like my mood changed all of a sudden. I was like all happy and perky. And I was like, I'm so sorry. I didn't know you were coming by. And like, what do you do for equity? I had no details. And I was like,
Oh my goodness.
thought he was so cute. Um, So basically it's like, I'm actually here to train you and like show you the systems because it's a little bit different on the owner operator side. Like things are very streamlined versus the fee management and what software I was used to. And so I was like, okay, like I didn't have any questions lined up. So I like literally just asked so many questions. I kind of was making it up on the fly because I was like, I just want to keep talking to him because he's so cute. And he was another lease up manager. We were the only two lease up managers, and I was kind of the only one who came from outside. They really heavily promote within, but they wanted somebody with San Francisco experience. So it was a great match for us work wise because I
Yeah.
did somebody to really let me know like the way and the processes because there was so many there that I needed to get on board with. So
Yeah.
started chatting quite a bit. We would be in the office at like 8 o'clock at night, like programming all of our remotes, getting keys ready, and being like, "Are you still online? I'm still online." So we were both lease-up managers. So we kind of bonded on that. And then I was like, I mean, I'm just going to invite him out to hang out with my friends one night. And I remember he came over and we decided to go out. And I was supposed to meet my friends at an art show. And I was like, let's just stop for a drink first before we go to this art show. And he's like, okay. So, anyways, we ended up sitting at this bar and like kind of really connecting on like family values, all of this stuff. Like, we both got out of long term relationships. And I was like, we have so much in common. And my friends were texting me, like, where are you? You're going to miss the show. So, ended up like leaving the show and they walk into the bar and they were like, of course you're here talking to this cutie here. So we were just hitting it off and conversing and kind of was history ever since then. We were
Yeah.
obviously because we worked together. I had never dated anybody at work and I was so nervous because it was a new company.
Yeah.
But we ended up like just being friends at first and then we decided, okay, let's like date for real. We had the same boss at that time. So I remember us having an argument like, who's going to tell our boss? Because we have to make sure we're in guidelines with HR. We're not, nobody oversees anybody. We're not really breaking any rules, but we need to be transparent about this. So I,
Yeah.
I love it here and I love what I do. So I don't want it to affect my work. So
Hmm.
he ended up doing it. I was like, you have to do it because you've been with equity for a really long time. Yeah, well, he ended up telling our boss. Our boss was like, "Oh, he was like, it's totally fine, just as long as like, there's nothing that's going to affect you guys at work." And so we were like, "Oh,
Yeah.
great." So then we let the cat out of the bag, and it was really cute. Since we both had like family values, we worked in the same industry. It was just such a good match. I never imagined like me wanting to work all day in the industry and then also like dating somebody in the industry because it's like you just talk about it so much like
Yeah.
your life. So it just became my livelihood. All my best friends from high school all ended up in multifamily. So it's like every time we get together, it's like stories about multifamily, like operations, crazy residents, stories. We've just all been it for so long. So it truly is like a family to me. Uh,
Yeah.
and then we proceeded to have our kids, and I did a couple other lease ups. And then I actually took over his building once he went to another company. And that was kind of a little fight because we're like different operators. So I was like, "Why did you allow this?" And, um, things, I just do things a little different. So we've always had some really cute banter back and forth. He calls me Miss Operations. So still to this day, he's like, nope, you're on the vendor side. I don't need your advice on how to handle this.
Oh, too fun. Tell me that when he proposed, he did something related to multifamily. Like he put it in like a lease packet or a file or resident file or something.
He didn't. I mean, I would have, but I mean, I think so. It was really funny because we had got pregnant before we got married and walked down the aisle. But when he proposed to me, we went to Boston and it was a funny story. It wasn't anything with leasing, but basically I was so hungry and he like told me to wait and not get a smoothie and I melted down the minute before he did it with the ring in his backpack about you're not going to propose to me.
Oh my gosh.
Because I was having pregnant, hangry,
Of course. Been
second.
there.
Yeah. Poor guy. He's carrying it around in his backpack with my family there all day. So then it was really funny though, because we went over to a shore and he was like, what's going on over there? And I was like, is he pointing at those new construction buildings, like to have a conversation about new construction right now? And I was like, I don't know, new construction apartment buildings. And I turned around, he had the ring.
Oh.
And then I felt like the worst, but it's kind of a funny story that I had a meltdown like literally an hour before it happened.
Oh my goodness. I have so many stories about my meltdowns while pregnant. And I'm like not a super like I'm a very passionate person. I'm not a super emotional person in general, but like when you're pregnant, you just have no control. There's no control. So
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there is zero control, especially if you're hungry. Like
yeah.
I think I felt super awkward that we weren't engaged at that point, but you know, nobody cared and everybody was rooting us
Of
on,
course.
like our teams. And so when we would go to like our annual summits, they would like interview us and put us up on screen and people would be like, oh my gosh, equity baby. So we truly grew like a multifamily family. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's funny. It's funny to
Love
explain
it.
for kids to like what we do. He's still in the industry. He's a COO of a small um, multifamily company based out of Sacramento. So he's
Okay.
on the operator side.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. Well, your story and your time in multifamily is obviously so personal to you, and that's so incredible. But you did decide to make the switch to the vendor side. So what actually inspired that shift?
Yeah, so I would say, I was multiple years on site. I really wanted to start moving up. And to be honest, I truly did love my last company. Like, I was like, I could retire there. They were great operators, so organized, like thrived in the atmosphere, just had also a really amazing team. Um, but, I felt like it was time for change. Pandemic hit. We decided to buy a house. And so I started kind of looking around. I was like, if I'm not staying with my company that I was at the moment,
Hmm.
uh, I don't want to work for anybody else.
Yeah.
I'm very adamant about having a very like strict operations. When I was an operator, I really liked a lot of guidelines, processes,
Yeah.
very dialed in.
Yeah. Miss
So
operator.
yes, I I will say like I did fee management for 11 years, and that is really hard work, but it can also
Hmm.
be very messy. And so I was like, I'm never gonna go back to that. Sorry, fee operators, but it's a lot. It taught me a lot because I had to
Hmm.
do so much. That
Yeah.
the other side and things were a little bit more organized. I felt like I was more successful in my role.
Yeah. I can see that. Yeah.
So I started looking around and I had a vendor friend who was actually my vendor, like rep in San Francisco for Laundry Locker and for Luxor. And I was like, okay, like, I can probably do this. I saw that was a position open. He's like, you would be great at this. I think my family, my friends, everybody's always known like sales is kind of my niche.
Yeah.
The manager who didn't sit at my desk, I would get out on the leasing floor with my team. If we needed leases, I was going to go out there and lease or show them and let's do this. Let's get this going. So naturally, I felt like sales was very natural to me and it seemed like a natural shift. So when we bought our
Yeah.
house, I decided to make the jump. Um, and it was great. I loved it because I was still working with the industry that I love so much. I was still connected with all of my people that I loved. Some of my current clients right now were people I worked for. And I think that was the hardest thing is leaving my family. So coming over to the vendor side and still being able to serve them and be able to
Yeah.
with them with what goes on, I also felt like is very helpful for my clients. They're like, you get it. You know
Hmm.
to run a site. You know the challenges we run into. Um, every property wants to run things so efficiently, and how do you do that?
Yeah.
Uh, so, that's I transitioned in 2021 over to this side. It was a huge, like a learning curve. It's a little bit different. And then I kind of fell into national accounts at my last company. They didn't have it built out. They were like, see what you can do with these accounts. And once we started getting things going, and I just kind of said, like, this is what I feel like is needed. We started seeing a huge positive benefit, not only for the clients that they were getting a better relationship, we were more in lining with their goals, but we were just seeing a positive impact on our business.
Yeah.
And again, when I made the transition to my current role at WithMe to kind of do the same thing, um, I think the hardest part was leaving my clients, the relationship that I built. I understand everything that one of my clients need. I think that's the biggest thing, is leading with your heart and making sure that you align with what their goals and what they want to achieve.
Yeah.
So, and then knowing that you're going to show up for them. That's
Yeah.
showing up for them. I'm very big on providing metrics, because coming from the operator world, that's what we lived off of. So relating to them, speaking their language, and providing them with metrics that matter, such as the MPS, like what volumes are they seeing and stuff like that. That was a huge gap that I felt like at our other company and this company, that we really need to get better at in modeling those metrics so they can make more of an educated decision, versus like, we know it works. We've heard this from your manager, their managers, but we truly want to see something that is beneficial, resident feedback, manager feedback, volumes that they're seeing out of, any type of solution that you're putting on place, that justifies the spend, right? And then, so here we offer a lot of things that I feel like, God, I wish I had that when I was on site. I feel like it hasn't been that long ago, but technology is moving so fast with prop tech that it's changed tremendously even since I've been on site. And I think I've shared with you, like, time management is one of the things that properties struggle with on site teams, is getting to all those things. So, what is that perfect pair of that technology that's going to fit in with their day to day operations and lighten the load from them and take off all the work from them? So, again, making them a more efficient operator by investing in technology that can do that for them.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you've mentioned to me a few times that, something that you think is so important is ensuring that site teams are ensuring that they're spending money really smartly, right? Like as smartly as they can, especially when it comes to prop tech. So how do you see that today, especially when you're out there talking to these teams about what they should be spending their money on and how they're spending it on prop tech? What does spending it smartly mean to you?
Yeah, I think an expense that you can control.
Okay.
So, right. So if you have like a
Yeah.
volatile expense that you can't control, like everybody gets bonused on how they run their budget and how they can operate. So if you have, an amenity that you can't really control that, and it doesn't have the software to help you with that, that makes it really hard. Say if your property is not performing on the rents that you want and you need to reduce expenses or make sure that they're predictable, that's something that we can help with that makes that better for them. Because I would say, number one thing as a manager in regionals and VPs, you want to make sure you're operating and increasing NOI. That
Yeah.
is really the most important thing. Sure, you're going to have stuff that comes, at you with boilers going down, but if you have
Mhm.
stuff on site that you are using that you can't control the expense that's giving back to the residents, it's kind of a downside, and it's hard to gauge that when
Yeah.
you're right budgets and stuff. And consumption of residents change over time, right? So the trend, I would say, with the pandemic, I was still on site during the pandemic when it hit. Um, Things changed drastically. People
Yeah.
were working from home. People were ordering an ungodly amount. People needed printouts for stuff.
Yeah.
People wanted convenience in their own home because stores and shops were closed.
Yeah.
So now there's this huge work from home culture. Yes, we're, well past it, but there's still a huge culture of work from home. It's shifted, you know, from where it used to be. So you're seeing the trend of the demand of like resident amenities. What was back then, what I would say is like the pool, the gym, the rooftop, and barbecues has completely shifted to like a shared space. And then also when I was in San Francisco, it's tech hub of the world, we kind of were already thinking that and had a lot of shared spaces where these people could collaborate and that they can meet other residents on site and have these cool work sessions and areas where they can all sit there and do that. So um, there was a huge push for change of amenities, and people are still trying to figure it out. And I think the biggest part is tech pieces that you can control income, give something that's a more efficient way for your property managers, give them back time and take over the workload for them. Because
Yeah.
you're paying people a lot of money. And if you can eliminate them, like I said, running out to go get toner, which I had to do multiple times, and having software on our products that has like the cloud monitoring, like it's the coolest thing ever. I had this on my boilers, so like you would know that there was a problem ahead of time, and
Yeah.
that's truly a game changer when we're helping monitor when an issue happens and we're able to see if something goes online. So we're already behind the scenes providing that support. A manager doesn't know till they walk in at 9 a.m. in the morning.
Yeah.
What if it went down overnight? We can self-resolve it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so smart. And, that's a really great segue because, you've mentioned that you're such an advocate for smart spend and the metrics that you want to deliver to the users so that they understand the value. So, WithMe solutions are so unique. I'd love to ask you to actually share, like, what exactly does WithMe do? What is the service and the solution that they're providing?
Yeah, so essentially we do printers in coffee, but we're a prop tech company. We built this proprietary software that is amazing and takes over the lifting off the load. So basically what happens is we're helping control abuse of things. If residents are, over printing or stuff like that, that helps you control the spend. And what we do is with our software, not only do we manage the rent roll there and who can use it, but additionally, on top of that, we offer something so unique to compare to our competitors where we can fit into anybody's budget. So we're really trying to be a flexible partner versus other ones like take instance for the coffee, it's always an unlimited. So again, there's no control over that. But if, an operator wants to pick a cup allowance that can fit into their budget, and then on top of that, it's a very low cost to the resident after that, our software helps them manage that and keeps it within their budget guidelines. Same,
Okay.
so our prints. So we offer, we're the only ones who offer like an allowance that you can provide to your residents. You can do the unlimited, and we also it's a flat fee. Everything's all inclusive. So support, software, product, and also all of the supplies. So the beans,
Okay.
so they're not seeing a fluctuation, and we take care of it all.
Okay. So I'm a resident in one of these communities that's using with me on their coffee. And let's say the community provides me with like 10 cups a month for free. And then once I've hit that limit, I now have to scan my badge and it charges me. The charge goes to like my tenant ledger and I get charged for that in addition to my rent.
Not on the tenant ledger, but what we
Okay.
have is a web-based app. So the web-based
Okay.
that they can go on, once they can go order, and it's going to register to their email. And then what it does is they can go on and they can order a cup of coffee, and that would be anywhere from 150 to 275. Much cheaper
Okay.
than your local Starbucks that's going to be down the street or might be a job or a drive. So it's still an added benefit to have that in the convenience of your home.
Yeah.
I, we just saw that coffee consumption in America has gone up by like 14%. Um, I'm a connoisseur myself. Coming from a city, I used to have two a day.
Mhm.
So, it's a value that adds in, even if they're only getting the 10 cups free, that they can still get it at such a low expense.
Yeah. I'm I'm curious. I want to ask, this is just to satisfy my curiosity. of your clients, how many of them do unlimited versus how many have some sort of a capped budget for that?
So we have quite a few because if you think that they're the general market before we had this software, and our SIP site has only been on the market for 3 years.
Okay.
A lot of the other providers only offer unlimited.
Unlimited, yeah.
So a huge range of them do that, or if they're going to transition to our product and they want to reduce, what we're seeing is doing the 30 cup allowance. So it's kind of almost 1 cup of coffee per day.
A day. Okay.
And we can also, another one is 4 hours in the morning, unlimited. So
Yeah.
that we've done these very flexible packages to fit in, but we still have a lot that want to provide that as amenity.
Yeah.
Don't want to charge the residents.
Yeah.
So a lot of like the Class A buildings and stuff like that, we are seeing that they're still giving unlimited. And then also a lot of people offer it because they want to, compare to their comps, be offering something that's more desirable than their comps amenities down the street.
Yeah. Okay. That's so interesting. That is so true that all of your competitors here to date have only had the option for unlimited. And so I love this concept of like controlling the costs and kind of digging deeper into that. You know, you've mentioned that WithMe solutions have a pretty big ROI story that you get to tell when you're out selling WithMe and talking to these large accounts that you're working with. So what are those ROI? Like what is the ROI of WithMe and what are the key metrics you're focusing on?
Yeah, so I mean, the biggest one was time savings, right? So if you're having a manager that you're paying, let's just say $20 to $30 an hour, if not plus, their time being valuable to sitting on site versus running off site for an hour to go get toner, no matter how many times a month, is a huge cost savings in just employee wages. You also have the effects of ROI, like with our software and our product, making sure that it's staying online as much as possible. Because, right, when I was on site, what would happen is when we didn't have a monitoring software like that, sometimes the machine would go down and I wouldn't know. And now a resident's upset.
Yeah.
And it keeps on going down, and we weren't on top of the operations constantly, which can happen if you have a leak or something happening. That creates a dissatisfied resident. A dissatisfied resident could lead to a notice, which then
Yeah.
a vacancy notice on average could be 30 days.
Yeah.
Unoccupied unit. Say if your average rents are 2,500 a month, you lose one resident over that coffee or that printer machine going down. That right there, let's just say, is $2,500 just with one person leaving.
Yeah.
Keeping these things up and running consistently, you're saving on employee cost. We do also have rev share opportunities too. So on some of these sites that people are, using the coffee and they're dispensing so many cups, it does create an ROI piece to it where they can get a rev share on the cups of coffee and also the print. It's not, I would say, really a money generating tool, but the part of the ROI piece is keeping residents happy, keeping things up and running, keeping your managers in seat, reducing that vacancy loss.
Yeah.
That is the biggest key. You don't ever want to have that. It's better to retain residents versus having them move out. The turn cost, vacancy, all of that, it gets so expensive.
Yeah.
So that's a huge ROI piece that, what we bring in is we're going to help you produce a better amenity that's more efficient, giving time back and helping you reduce that overturn on your site.
Yeah, I love that. And it's obviously something that's so important, especially in the market that exists today in a lot of large cities where there is a little bit of an oversupply and absorption issue. And so, keeping those residents where they're at because they have all of these conveniences and there are things about the community that they love, that they feel taken care of, is so, so valuable. But, taking this kind of in a different direction, because I've mentioned to you that affordable housing is a huge passion of mine. And so I asked you, are there any affordable communities using this? Assuming the answer would be no. But it sounds like I would be wrong.
So there definitely is. So we also offer a back office solution. So the typical printers you would see on site are these huge RICO contracts and stuff like that. We have just launched a product that's backup office that's also helping with the office staff and printers there and giving them all the same bells and whistles. Obviously, if you've worked on affordable, I've always had an affordable component. You are printing a lot.
Yes, especially on a HUD property. Lots of paperwork.
Yes. Also, your residents for all of their they require a lot of print. So it's not like tickets and stuff like that. They need their paycheck stubs, whatever they need. We had a lot of residents who would come to us and need print. And I would say, not to say anything about the affordable, but they just require a lot more in those needs. So we are helping quite a few affordable communities with that. We even have some that use coffee as like an extra amenity because they have certain requirements. They want to make it a nice gathering area. And so we do help with that quite a bit on those sites. So we have a big affordable component that uses our systems, and also student housing is another one that is drastically always needs a printer. So
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's so fantastic that your product is capable of crossing all those lines. And I mean, overall, it just seems like a great product. But I love the fact that you went from, being on site and loving just like the pace and the passion of the multifamily industry, and then moving into now helping more of those owners and operators from where you're at, and understanding and seeing the value of the product that some vendors provide. Because at the end of the day, we you and I, because now I'm in that same space too, but like, we're not boots on the ground actually operating the properties anymore, but we were, and we understand, how having certain partners and solutions on site can really make a big difference.
it does. Yeah, I would say like that's probably why I jumped to the vendor side, is because I had such great partners when
Yeah.
I like still am friends with them.
Yeah.
Again, it's like, yes, we have a great product and solution, but I truly think it comes down to the team and showing up with heart and being that valued partner and
Yeah.
making sure, because every single portfolio is so dynamic. So not every single portfolio needs a cookie cutter solution. So what we've done at WithMe is we really try to be flexible and to in line with everybody's goals. Everybody doesn't have fully conventional class A.
Yeah.
So product is very flexible across with offering the different um, packages that they can fit
Yeah.
in the budget. We know affordable, they don't have big budgets, right? They have their set rents. So there's only so much they have. With the With Me solution, they're able to fit in something within their needs versus Class A, they have bigger budgets. They do those bigger spends typically. We can fit into their needs, and we can also help them, again, more efficient, and then control abuse. If residents or you just have people coming by in an urban setting and using your stuff, it gives it a more sense of control. And I think that's like a key thing, is operating your budgets efficiently and giving a more efficient solution tied with software, taking the load off. So, and then diversifying ourselves across people's portfolios that can fit into their needs.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I love it. Like you said it well. It's just like that those partnerships can mean everything, even long-term friendships. So, well, Alex, it's been amazing chatting with you today. This has been such a great conversation. And as you know, before I can wrap things up, I always have to ask two questions. So I'll start with the first, which I have a feeling you're going to have a good one for us, given your experience and your husband's. I'd love to ask if you have a story from your time in multifamily that you'd like to share with us.
Yeah, I mean, I shared with you the story about meeting my husband. I think that's
Yeah.
one. But I would say there's so many. I'm trying to think, but um, I want to say I think during the pandemic is what stands out, is when we were going through the pandemic. I had my baby, and 6 weeks later, the pandemic hit while I was still on maternity leave.
Oh my gosh.
When I came back, and being in Silicon Valley, right? Like we in New York were like ground zero for COVID. I would just say coming back on site, I obviously didn't know what to expect. It was hilarious. My team was like nothing besides COVID. So welcome back. Navigating through that and truly seeing that, I think what taught me the most about that time is that property management is always going to be a constant.
Yeah.
People always need housing. It's never going away. There's always a shortage. So it's one of those things that does so much for a community.
Yeah.
Um, so I truly, it's a needed thing. The people who are working on site give their hearts.
Yeah.
The vendors, everybody, it takes an army to make
Yeah.
these things running. And through that, like we had to pivot, right? And so we had to change and do things different. And we weren't used to not being able to push rents. We were really got into the game of retention, which I think everybody has started to focus on.
Yeah.
So I think that was a huge learning experience being a lease-up manager. I was always pushing rents and trying to hit $6 per square foot. But during that time, it was very humbling seeing a way of operating through a downtime and changing our methods and still being successful in a different way.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Like it was, and I felt like the teams grew closer during that time. And I felt like everybody just learned so much and it made the industry even better in
Yeah.
the, so I'm so grateful. I will say it was out of lease ups. It was the hardest time I've ever worked. Um, it wasn't for the faint heart. I think it broke a lot of people, but it taught me a lot. And I think it made our industry better in the end. It
Yeah.
truly, and I think everybody's a better operator because of it.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. And I agree with you that it taught me something about real estate, the resiliency of what we do in multifamily, which made me feel like I'm never leaving this industry. I'm never leaving multifamily. Like whether it's on the operations side and being a partner in property management or helping run property management companies or actually serving on the tech side, the vendor side, doesn't matter. Like the resiliency and the grit behind multifamily, it just is who I am as a human, and I love it.
Oh yeah. I've always wanted to pitch like a TV show to Bravo called The Lease Up because I
Yeah,
think
I love it.
we can go into the dirty secrets of like what truly happens on site with some renters, even employees, but I'm still waiting for somebody to take my idea and really make a TV show of the lease up because
Love it.
it would be so good.
I love it. I love it. Well, then, Alex, I just have one last question for you. Um, do you have a book that you'd like to recommend to our listeners?
Yes. So at my last company, and when I was transitioning fully to like sales and national accounts, I was recommended a book from my friend Nathan, Eat That Frog by
Okay.
Brett McKee. So for all of the procrastinators, or there's just that one thing that you hate doing and you put on the back burner. It has a lot of methods to tell you get that done first. Make sure you get that out of the way. And I think so. Anybody in my industry or even in operations working on site, I used to push my variance report until the last minute and then be doing it at 9 p.m. at night. But it really taught me to shift, to plan my days ahead. I've always been a big to-do lister, but like making sure you eat that frog, get those difficult things out of the way so you could be more efficient and focus on stuff that's going to be producing results.
Yeah.
So for that day, focus on the results producer. Like obviously there's these easy tasks you can get done right away. And I think that also transcends into being a parent, as a
Yeah.
parent, like, getting all the birth certificates and signed up for sports is just can kind of be a headache and getting everything organized, but it truly has been changing for me and I would highly recommend it for anybody to read it.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Thank you. That's such a great recommendation and not one I've heard before. So I will have to add that to the list. Well, Alex, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to be here with me. I really appreciate it. It was a great conversation, and I look forward to seeing you out on the conference floors.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me. This has been such a privilege.